Most advanced US drone shot down. Houthi rebels shoot down US MQ-9 Reaper drone. Iran-backed rebels shoot down US drone over Red Sea. Biggest challenge yet to the US by Iran-backed rebels. Will the US strike back at Iran-backed rebel forces? Massive escalation in Israel's war on Hamas terror.
Hello and welcome. You're watching India First. I'm Gaurav Sawant. In a major blow to the United States supremacy in the skies, Iran-backed Houthi forces shot down the most advanced US MQ-9 Reaper drone over the Red Sea. Now, this drone costs close to $30 million and was on a reconnaissance mission and reportedly not armed. Shooting down a US drone, Iran-backed forces have thrown a major challenge to the US that has repeatedly warned Iran and rebels backed by Iran not to open a second front. But this isn't the first time that the US forces have been targeted by Iran-backed rebels. US troops stationed in Iraq and in Syria have repeatedly been attacked by rockets and drones, at least 40 times since the attack on Israel on the 7th of October. In fact, 46 service personnel were injured in these attacks. Some had to be flown to Germany for treatment.
The most advanced US drone shot down over Red Sea, adding to tension in the Middle East already caught in the Israel-Hamas war. The American MQ-9 Reaper drone was brought down by Iran-backed Houthi rebels from Yemen off the country's coast. The US drone was on a surveillance and reconnaissance mission. The Houthi forces launched a surface-to-air missile. The MQ-9 Reaper drone was shot down, according to American sources in the international airspace. A Houthi military spokesperson said they shot down the drone in airspace over Yemen's territorial waters. The Iranian president issued a new warning to the US and Israel after Hamas allies destroyed the American drone. US and coalition troops have been attacked at least 40 times in Iraq and Syria by Iran-backed forces since October 7. 45 US soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries or minor wounds in these attacks. US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said if attacks by Iran's proxies against US forces continue, the US will not hesitate to take further necessary measures to protect American lives and interests. The attacks and counterattacks are a reminder that one false move can widen the war to other countries in the region. Bureau Report, India Today.
And let me now bring into this conversation Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain, one of India's best-known urban warfare specialists. General Hasnain commanded the Srinagar Corps in Jammu and Kashmir. General Hasnain, Israel's objective is to decimate Hamas as a ruling entity at Gaza Strip and as a terror entity that poses a threat to Israeli civilians, citizens and soldiers. How feasible is Israel's aim and how difficult would it be to achieve the same?
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you for having me on your show. And this is a very, very relevant question which everyone around the world is asking. I think most of us who have had experience of urban warfare would probably conclude that the objectives laid out by the Israeli Defense Forces seem to be a little irrational. Because a final decimation of a force which is as big as this and which seems to have prepared itself extremely well, which seems to have the full backing of, its proxy supporters from outside, which has got almost 130,000 missiles and rockets, so to say, between Hezbollah and them, it's going to be a difficult task to decimate them completely. Now, to decimate them, you'll have to virtually come down to what the Jaffna kind of formula was, from five directions. When the Indian army went in, it took us better part of 20-25 days almost to capture Jaffna. But thereafter, managing Jaffna was a major challenge for 2.5 years. Is the IDF prepared to do that? Because the decimation does not mean that every single terrorist would have escaped, would have been victimized or would have been killed. Some people will be there, their leadership will be recreated. Yes. There will be networks which are very much existent there, and money still seems to be flowing all around. So it was going to be a very, very difficult task for Israel. I would say if Israel is planning to keep occupying Gaza, then it will have to continue remaining mobilized as far as this IDF is concerned.
How long will they then have to stay in?
Small number.
How long will they have to stay inside Gaza Strip? Because Americans seem to be indicating, and US Secretary of State will be in India shortly, America doesn't want Israel inside the Gaza Strip for long. But if they have to ensure that Hamas is rooted out, how long will they have to stay inside Gaza?
I think the US advice is very sound. This is what they are advising the IDF all along, that you can conduct your operations, take it up to a point, perhaps dilute the capability of Hamas, re-establish your so-called no war zones or no-fly zones or no movement zones in the area. But to have an objective to completely decimate may be actually unrealistic to a great extent. And we took 2.5 years to control Jaffna with an administration that we had established there. And at the end of it, the entity was very much existent there. Yes. This is what I'm trying to draw out, the lessons from the past. We've seen it in Mosul. Mosul finally took 6 months of effort on the part of the Iraqis and the Syrians to be able to get rid of the ISIS. So Israel is in for a problem if they think that they can actually go in and actually eliminate the last Hamas terrorists.
General Hasnain, in your appreciation, the way Israel is moving in, the way multiple buildings have now been taken down, the way North Gaza has been cut off from South Gaza, does it appear that Israel wants to create a bigger barrier, a no-man's zone between the occupation by Palestinians of where they live and work and the Israeli fence? Are they creating a wider no-man's land?
Well, at the first look at the manner in which these operations are going on, what you're saying does seem to be somewhere right, because they have ordered for a complete evacuation of North Gaza. They want to probably reduce the complete Hamas presence there, and they want to create that into a no man's land. But then the South Israel also has got settlements. There are lots of kibbutzes. You have been just there, just short of the wall, short of the fence. These kibbutzes exist there. Will they have to do the same thing to South Gaza? Where will this population go? Absolutely. If they're expecting that this population is to go into Egypt, Israel would have destroyed the last of stability which it has got on its borders, a stable border with Egypt. Yes. And they should not expect to do that with Jordan either. So I think at the end of it, this is what they may be aiming to do as a kind of an interim measure. But perhaps in the finality of it, I don't foresee this kind of a thing ultimately happening on ground. Perhaps a 3, 4, 5 kilometer zone can be created. But how much space is there actually existent in Gaza? 25 kilometers by 10 to 12 kilometers. Now, if you start creating zones, no movement zones and things like that, there's hardly going to be any space for anyone there.
Okay, so does it make better sense for Israel to neutralize the military leadership, the political leadership, and ensure weapons are wiped out so that militarily they cannot be challenged from the Gaza Strip? Is that feasible?
Absolutely. That is what the Israelis should be planning for and strategizing to do. difficult call, no doubt, very challenging, it's going to take some time. But what they should definitely not do, what they should call off, is this indiscriminate bombing of civilian areas and causing civilian casualties. 10,000 dead for the sake of killing 60 Hamas terrorists is just not worth it, because you're only enhancing this problem further and further beyond.
General Hussain, for joining me here on India Today. Many thanks.
Thank you.
And let me now quickly bring into this conversation India Today's Shiv Arur. Shiv, this is huge and a huge challenge to American air supremacy in the skies here.
You know, Gaurav, an MQ-9 Reaper drone being shot down by Houthis is, a huge action at any point of time. And it happening at a time when Israel and, the Hamas are at war in the Gaza Strip makes this exponentially bigger. The United States, as you know, is deployed in a very big way in the region already. The United States, under normal circumstances, has drones of the MQ-9 variety operating in that region because there are a variety of threats to the United States over there. But for Yemeni forces, the Houthi forces, to use surface-to-air missiles, first of all, to be able to track a very high-flying MQ-9, armed drone, being able to target it, lock it, and bring it down, suggests a very high degree of conventional surface-to-air weaponry. Point number one. Point number two, the willingness to engage and raise temperatures with United States forces in the region at a time when, everything is on a hair trigger, and an action of this kind could easily escalate the situation beyond just Israel and Gaza. And point number three, this brings Iran's intent right to the fore, Gaurav. The MQ-9 Reaper is not a small drone. It's a big drone. They cost about $32 million a piece. To bring them down is no joke. So it suggests that those looking to raise temperatures, looking to poke the defenses of the United States, looking to, try and provoke and trigger a greater escalation, perhaps, beyond just Israel and Gaza, may well be in a position to actually succeed. So far, the Arrow anti-missile system has brought down a ballistic missile. United States Navy cruisers have managed to intercept cruise missiles fired from Yemen. But the bringing down of an MQ-9 Reaper drone is by far the biggest action, offensive action, that has taken place so far around Israel.
And all eyes now on the United States of America. Will it just bomb a couple of weapon storage facilities of these Iran-backed rebels, or will stronger action be taken, and will it lead to a chain reaction? Shiv, keep tracking that story. I will come back to you for more. And this is now being seen as the deadliest phase in Israel's Hamas hunt. The Israeli Defense Forces are now inside the Gaza city. They've completely cut off North Gaza from the southern part of Gaza. Israeli tanks, armored personal carriers and infantry soldiers are now carrying out both search and seizure and seek and destroy operations to decimate Hamas commanders, fighters, infrastructure, tunnels, shafts and weapon storage facilities. The Israeli forces are also moving closer to the Al-Shifa hospital. Israel has repeatedly said that the basement of the Al-Shifa hospital and the tunnels around are the nerve center of Hamas command and control structure and operations in Gaza.
Israeli forces are being greeted by Hamas tunnels across Gaza City. At every street, at every corner, there's a tunnel. As Israeli soldiers dig through the ground, terror hideouts continue to unravel. This is Beit Lahiya in Gaza City. The Hamas terrorists gave a tough fight to Israeli ground forces here. But now the Israeli army is destroying tunnels in the same settlements and streets where Hamas terrorists planned and plotted the October 7th attack. Since Israel's ground offensive began on October 27th, It has so far blasted more than 130 Hamas tunnels. As you move past the labyrinth of tunnels, there's only destruction in Gaza City. Wherever you look, there are ruined buildings, collapsed roofs. The entire settlement is scattered in dust. These are not ordinary pictures. The truth of Gaza City came to light when a group of journalists along with Israeli army entered the Gaza Strip. This is what they saw in just 1.5 hours. The 401 Brigade of the Israeli army is deployed on the front in this area. They move forward only on tanks. After inspection, Israeli army soldiers come out and enter each house and investigate.
One of the first soldiers that came in this neighborhood, and yes, when we came in, we weren't shooting when we just came in. We were getting shot at. They were shooting at us, so we had to shoot back to protect our lives. I'll tell you something, the Israeli army is here to protect innocent people.
It is clear that there was a family apartment above this, but below was a workshop for making weapons and drones. Tools, pipes, and 5 boxes all kept there.
You understand, this is not an army, it's different. They meant to kill us all. They came from here.
Israeli army soldiers spent their time from morning till evening locating the hideouts of Hamas among these ruins.
We're getting to know the enemy a little bit more and more every time, every house we're getting into. We're trying to be careful for ourselves all the time. Very good so far.
Only Israeli army armored vehicles or tanks are being used to enter Gaza City. Israeli army soldiers are parking their tanks by building sand dunes in the settlements inside the city. With Rajesh Pawar from Tel Aviv, Bureau Report, India Today.
And the other big story on India First,